But why is it so scary? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Now today I'm going to be doing another video in my series called Romance Reader Tries, and it's usually a romance reader like me tries a new genre because I want to see which genre would I like next. So if you guys are new to my channel, I'm a romance reader. I typically read romance novels, but since the start of this series, I have dabbled into many genres such as thrillers, women's fiction, horror, and now I'm going to be doing a middle grade horror themed video, especially because right now is spooky season. It's October, it's Halloween. I know we've seen so many videos on spooky books and spooky recommendations for October, but I personally love it. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays and autumn is one of my favorite seasons. I feel like autumn is the time where I read the most thrillers. I don't really read mysteries, so I should try mysteries next. And I also read paranormal and fantasy, just like light amounts, because if you're also new to my channel, you would know that I've tried paranormal romance a few months back and it didn't really go too well. I didn't really find the series that sparked joy within me to continue on reading that genre, but aside from that, it was fun. So this series of videos have taught me to branch out, to try new to me authors, and it's been really fun and it's great to take you guys on the journey with me. So for this video, I decided that I'm going to be trying out middle grade horror novels. And I know you guys are thinking like, why are you reading middle grade novels? Well, because middle grade novels are really precious stories that educate the young, and I wanted to see what kind of topics they were talking about in middle grade novels, especially when they're educating readers so young. And one of the great findings that I have found about middle grade novels is that authors are not afraid to really hash out the big social issues that everybody is talking about nowadays. It's not afraid to talk about subjects that might be sensitive, that might not be something that you would bring up in a normal day-to-day conversation. It really teaches kids about like specific issues that are happening in the countries that they're living in, and it's just great and it's fantastic. So I want to see how the horror genre will play out and how they would incorporate some of the themes of like the genre into their books while also talking about social issues. So I'm going to start off with the book that kind of like made me want to do this video in the first place, and it's actually a book that was sent to me from Scholastic Canada, and it was really funny because if you guys follow me on Instagram and also social media, then you would know that I kind of wrote a love letter to Scholastic Canada asking them if I could work with them so that I could get some books so that I could review them, because I absolutely am drawn to their titles. So one of the titles that I actually requested from Scholastic Canada after they actually answered my love letter was Hide and Seeker by Daka, Hermon, and this book is a middle grade horror novel. So this book is actually centered around a group of friends who are each dealing with their own issues. So our main character actually suffers anxiety attacks, and he is suffering anxiety attacks more now that his mother has suddenly passed away a few months ago. And then everything in his life is quickly changing with the passing of his mother, and also because one of his best friends actually disappeared a year ago, and he came back, but he's completely different. Something's wrong with him. He's acting strangely. He's hurting himself. There's like some self-harm, although it's not going directly deeply into it. He does end up hurting himself a lot, and he is saying a lot of nursery rhymes and a lot of different like ominous chants and things like that. And he hates the game hide and seek because it terrifies him. He changes into a completely different person, and he almost seems like he's possessed by a demon. So this book follows a group of kids who one day played hide and seek at a birthday party, and then mysterious things are happening. Kids are disappearing again, and they are being marked by like a mysterious mark on their arm, and they know that they are tagged and that they are next. So this story follows these group of kids trying to figure out who the seeker is and how to save the kids that have disappeared and that may not ever return back to their normal homes. I really enjoyed this novel, especially reading it at like 1 a.m. in the morning. Is the best time to read horror novels, right before you go to bed. And I finished it and it was thrilling. There was like a lot of action moments. Each chapter was pretty short, so it kind of ended off as a cliffhanger, so you had to keep reading the next chapter. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The reason why I'm taking 1 star off is because the ending kind of wrapped up too quickly, and I felt that this book was actually book 1 in a part of a major series, because it kind of alludes to the next book and also alludes to maybe another demon slash character that might take on and hurt children. So the next book that I read for this video is actually a book that caught my interest around last year when it first came out, because it's by an adult fantasy author that is very popular. So if you haven't heard about this book yet, it's called City of Ghosts by V.E. Schwab, and it's a middle grade novel about a girl who has parents that are famous, that are filming a reality show. They are ghost hunters, and it's funny because she's kind of like the only one in the family that can see ghosts, and she could theoretically be the only one that can catch ghosts. So the story kind of starts off with them moving to a different country to film in the location that their parents need to film the reality TV show in, and she meets a lot of characters. And she also has one best friend who is actually a ghost. So her backstory was very interesting to me, and I really liked her backstory a lot. So she had a accident where she was drowning, and then she almost died, and then that gave her the special ability to see ghosts. So this book, it follows like a kind of like a very slow burn adventure. I wouldn't say that it's as fast paced as Hide and Seeker, the book that I just mentioned, but it was definitely still fun. It actually took place in Scotland, so if you guys want to travel in your books, then definitely pick up this one, because it talked a lot about the historical settings. It described the environment really well. It was pretty interesting and fun too, because you kind of don't know who to trust, because she's so new to the game of like seeing ghosts and dealing with the other world and everything like that, that when other people come in and they are seemingly good, you kind of don't trust them when they say that other people can't be trusted. I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars, mostly because it was very slow burn, and I kind of wanted a faster middle grade horror novel, simply because it's a new to me genre. So anytime where it's slow burn, I'm kind of like, okay, like where are we gonna go next? So after reading City of Ghosts, I decided to pick up the second book in the series, because why not? It was available at the library through audiobook, and I had nothing better to do. So I picked up Tunnel of Bones, and this one is the second book in the series. There's a third one coming out very soon this year, so I'm going to decide whether or not I'm going to pick that one up. Tunnel of Bones kind of felt really disconnected from City of Ghosts. Now, I just read through some reviews on Goodreads of Tunnel of Bones, and I realized that a lot of people actually liked book 2 more than book 1, and some people kind of are like me and liked book 1 better than book 2. For me, I liked book 1 better than book 2, because book 2 kind of felt very different from book 1. It had a different style of pacing. It felt like that the characters were more evil and that there were more action bits, but there wasn't more supporting events to make those action bits meaningful. Sometimes the events kind of happened where it just blew up, and then you're like, okay, so this is the end of the story, but then you realize you still have like 2 hours of the audiobook to go, and you're like wondering, why did one major plot event ended earlier, and then now you're just kind of sitting and waiting for anything else to happen. So I couldn't give it as high as a rating as the first book, and I didn't enjoy it as much, and it caused some doubt for me to continue the series. So this one I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. This book takes place in Paris, so her family is now moving to Paris to film her ghost hunting show, and there she meets more evil creatures and characters that will cause her harm. So the next book that I read for this video was actually called Small Spaces by Catherine Arden, and now this one is for all the book lovers out there. So for anybody who wants to read a book and escape in the world, definitely go check out Small Spaces, because this is about a main character who suffered a lot of grief and she suffered loss in her life. So she turns to books to give her happiness, and she likes to read. So when one day she's kind of like walking back home and she spots a woman by the lake, and it seems that the woman is about to throw a book into the lake and ultimately destroy the book. She rescues the book and tells the girl that, you know what, this isn't safekeeping, I'll take care of it, don't worry about it. And the woman's reluctant to give her the book. So that should already be like, you know, something to tip off in your head that, you know, the book might be something you don't want. So the woman ends up leaving and giving her the book, and she ends up reading the story. So the story kind of is about a girl named Beth, and she has two older brothers that love her, but the book kind of turns into a sinister turn. Our main character is very drawn into the story. She is constantly reading it until then one day they go on a class field trip to a local farm, and they realize that sinister things are happening at the farm, especially with scarecrows and lost people. I thought that this book was similar to Tunnel of Bones, which is a little bit slower paced, but then also had some action scenes towards the end. It wasn't really my favorite, and it wasn't really my cup of tea because it didn't draw me into the story a lot. So unfortunately for this one, I also gave it an average 3 out of 5 stars. So the next two books are actually books in a series as well. So the first book that I read in a part of the series is called Spirit Hunters by Ellen Oh. And now this is a Korean American author writing about a Korean American family who has just moved into a new house. I don't know why, but a lot of horror novels and a lot of like horror movies always starts off something sinister happening in a new house. And now this is going to freak me out, just like anytime I'm going to move into a new space or place and the place isn't newly built and it's just like owned by a family from many hundreds of years ago, I'm just going to freak out about demons and possessions and spirit hauntings and things like that. It's just like the time when I started reading domestic thrillers and I have trust issues for a spouse that I don't have. Like, I'm really scared of my spouse now, or my future spouse, and I'm going to keep my eye out on him just in case he's plotting my demise. But anyways, going back to Spirit Hunters by Ellen Oh. It's about a Korean American middle grade student who is having a secret ability where she can actually spot ghosts. And obviously people are not believing her, especially her mom, who really shies away from paranormal things and does not believe in it at all. Her mom actually really hates this stuff, talking about ghosts and things like that, because she thinks that her mom conned a lot of people growing up because she doesn't believe it. And so she has a bad relationship with her mom, and in turn our main character doesn't really get to see grandma often because of their bad relationship. And then this is the story of basically the house turning sinister and her little brother actually being possessed by a spirit. And it's up to her and her grandma to work together to combat the house and the spirits and things like that. So this book was one of my first middle grade horror novels. It is actually my first middle grade horror novel that I read for this video, and it freaked me out. If you guys are fans of like creepy things, then definitely check out this book, because I was like listening to the audiobook and I was like, wait, is this stuff allowed? Like, and they really like write this in middle grade novels directed to kids, because like if I was a kid, I would probably have nightmares. But now as like a grown adult, I can just brush it off, telling myself that this could never happen to me, even though like it could. I don't know. And I guess when I was a kid, I used to read only Goosebumps by R.L. Stine. And even then, Goosebumps was kind of like, are you sure about that? Like, you know, I didn't really read too much Goosebumps, but I knew that the show Goosebumps gave me nightmares. So this one was really well done. I liked how it talked a lot about like Korean American lifestyle. It also talked about like rituals in Korea, and it also talked about racism, which is a social issue that people should talk about more in books. And it specifically talked about how our main character kind of had microaggressions because she was looking different from other people, and it was just fantastic to read in the books and to really talk about diversity in books as well. So I really highly recommend this book. This book, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. So the second book in the series and the last book that I read for this video is called The Island of Monsters by Ellen Oh. Once again, it follows the same kind of plot line where our Korean American middle grade main character is actually hunting ghosts, and then she gets herself into a lot of trouble and also a lot of exciting events do happen. I don't know why, but for middle grade novels and also for this video, the sequels never really live up to the first book. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because my brain kind of disconnecting from it. Maybe it's because I was binge reading it and my brain got tired, but I just couldn't really connect with this book as much as the first one. So this book takes place on a tropical island because our family has moved to a tropical island for vacation, and it's there where she discovers that the island might be haunted and might have a lot of spirits that need calming and to actually need help to be brought into the afterlife. So this one was very thrilling and fun as well. There was a lot of action scenes, more than the first one, or at least, I don't know, like I just felt like they were the same anyways. But it just also felt like there were so many action scenes that there wasn't really meat to the bones that I really cared about and that I could really connect with. Younger reader who reads this and needs someone to really captivate them, then action scenes will probably really help. But as an adult reading this book, I just felt like there was just too much. I needed some, you know, calm spaces. I needed to calm down a bit and bring down the enthusiasm. But otherwise, this book was good, and I still recommend you guys to check out the series, especially if you have younger readers in your house. Maybe recommend it to them, or just check it out too if you like middle grade novels. This one, I still gave it an average rating of 3 out of 5 stars. But anyways, that is it for another romance reader tries a new genre. So hopefully this gave you a lot of spooky recommendations for your October TBR and also for your Halloween TBR, because I know a lot of us are actually going around and reading a lot of horror genre books and also a lot of paranormal books because of spooky season and pumpkins and things like that. Hopefully you guys aren't too tired of those videos because they're still fun to me, but we'll see. And anyways, until next time, I'll see you guys again. Bye.